Welcome to the AFL Outer East Premier Division Footy Show, and it's coming to you live from Studio B, GameFace Central in Dandenong. I'm Dan Lotting, and I've got the two Matts with me. Matt Footy, I don't think I've got that right, but that doesn't matter. I knew I'd get that right. Fantasia, Footy, Matt Footy, how's that? And Matt Cox, that's much easier to say. Welcome, Matt. Good on you, boys. Good to have you with us.
Oh, good to be back, Dan.
Why have we changed the pronunciation?
We haven't. It's just someone asked me what it was.
Me. But I've always said it was Footy.
No, it doesn't bother me.
It doesn't bother
much
you.
like Orazio, but someone asked and I gave them the correct pronunciation.
Okay, so what is it again? Footy.
Footy.
Okay, I'll get it right next time. I knew I wouldn't get it right this time, but next time. Let's check the scores first. We'll start with the draw, the first one of the season. Cranbourne and Woorollalek, 11-8-74 apiece. Alinda Ferny Creek, too good for Hillsville, 16-10, 106 to 4-6-30. Wandon and Beaconsfield, as I say, Wandon trailed at three-quarter time, but eventually got over the line to win by 16 points. And also a very good performance by Narre Warren, annihilating Upwey Tacoma. It's been a tough year for Upwey Tacoma, certainly in recent weeks. 27-27, 189 to 7850. Well, let's start looking at the games. We'll start with the drawn match. It was an absolute thriller. Cranbourne 11-8-74, Woorollalek 11-8-74. Hadn't played for a while, Cranbourne. Do you think, Matt, they ran out of legs?
Oh, I don't think they ran out of legs, to be fair. They probably the second quarter really hurt them. And they've also made injuries. Well, they've made injuries something they've an excuse of it. So if they've got time off, it sort of cancels each other out. So at the moment, Steve O'Brien's side have been hurt by guys travelling. Obviously injuries as well. Yes, time off, but they're running out of gas throughout the season, not just in games. So look, this weekend coming that we're going to talk about in a second is probably going to be a massive one for them and another couple of teams in the competition. But look, Woorollalek are a good side. To drop points for them isn't an embarrassment. And Coxie might not have seen either of these two teams play as of yet, but you know, Woorollalek have shown all year that they're taking up the sides. Narre Warren, Clayton Taylor mentioned last week that he was quite impressed with them when he played there. So I don't think Cranbourne they'll be shattered the fact that they had the game in their hands until the last 30 seconds, but they won't be shattered in hindsight, I think, dropping points to Woorollalek. It'll be more this week and the coming weeks, I think. The
concern for me, Matt Cox, is that there's just been a lot of buys and Cranbourne have been the team probably most affected. They didn't play for 3 weeks. 2 matches that they missed, but they didn't play for 3 weeks. So I just think they've run out of legs. That second quarter was obviously poor, 7 goals to 1, so they've obviously got some work to do now, and they've been a team that have been a very good team in the old Sefnal, but I just think they've also been affected by the fact that I think they'd prefer to be in another competition, and they still haven't quite got their heads around it.
Yeah, and I wonder, just looking at the scoreline, I know there was quite a breeze where I was on the weekend, so I just wonder whether weather may have contributed just a little bit.
It always is windy at Casey Fields. If it's going to be windy, it's going to be windy at Casey Fields.
One of the best places on earth for wind, that in good old Williamstown. But yeah, I just having a look at the way that the scoring happened between the quarters, it seemed like Woorollalek came home with the wind in the final quarter, just looking at the scoreboard without being there. So I just wonder whether that may have had an impact. But I think you might be right a little bit. Obviously, the continuity thing, we were speaking about it last week. It's a bit hit and miss when players are trying to get into a game and fitness levels and all that sort of thing. But I just don't know whether that can be used as an excuse in modern day football. I mean, they do training constantly, so you know, they probably would have had sessions on Saturday mornings or Saturday arvos.
And fitness is meant to be the thing the southeast sides have over. And again, as a obviously company man, I probably shouldn't be mentioning southeast Yarra Valley sides, but that's meant to be the thing southeast have got. They've got this fitness and this running base, and that's how they've beaten teams on the big ground. So you can't then say, oh, we haven't had the continuity and we're not fit enough, because then how are Woorollalek fit enough? Their reserves don't win. They've got no depth. They come all from the 18s. In some instances, Woorollalek have players play both 18s and seniors. So you can't then say, oh, we're running out of legs. So, look, Cranbourne, I don't think this is all us just speculating. I haven't heard anything from them. So I don't think they'll probably be Steve O'Brien. From what I gather, he'll be probably pretty harsh on his crew. But they'll have to reset because there's no time now to sort of ponder on what could have been. They've got, and like we're going to mention it, they've got a game against Wandon that could decide their season. And then after that, they've still got Narre Warren, Berwick and Alinda. They've only got one really, really guaranteed win for the rest of the season.
And at the end of the day, Woorollalek are the better side when you look at the ladder position in terms of form. So they know how to win. They know how to win.
They've certainly found a way to win on a regular basis, even though the percentage is not great. Question to you, Matt. Do you think next year that the league will scrap the bye to cater for the Vic Country Championships, which is why that bye was in for the Premier Division?
Something to discuss. Probably have to put it through to the clubs and see what they think. What happens this year, people obviously in hindsight go, well, we didn't need the bye, but if, a lot of these players are very good players. We had a couple in the young gun game on the weekend. Riley Verby and Will Arthur was meant to play, but he ended up getting picked for Collingwood VFL, if I'm not mistaken. Riley Verby played all 3 of the young gun games. Pat Brazzesi was meant to, but pulled out for his own personal reasons to play for Wandon. So, there was players missing already. If you then add in the Vic Country game the week before, this year everyone's going, there was no need for it. Next year we could have 9 players picked across 19s and the senior side, and then you'd have people going, oh, why isn't there a bye? We've been, this favours, Upway, Tacoma, Hillsville, Linda, who might not have the players picked. So you've just got to make a call at the start of the year, and I think it's easier to have the bye and everyone complain that they had a week off. And the only sides that are really that affected are obviously Berwick and Cranbourne. Berwick won't be complaining about it because they're winning. Cranbourne only affects, if Cranbourne was sitting 3rd, they'd be going, it's a good time to put up our heels. So it's all situational. Things happen, you got to handle it. In the AFL, it's the same thing. Buys come at different times.
And I think you can look at it from two ways too. It's obviously the stop-start, which we don't like, because it means it ruins the continuity of the season.
Yeah, it does.
But also, if you've got a club that's got injuries or that are trying to manage senior players that are perhaps just scraping over the line heading into finals, the bye can come at a good time. So from that angle, also freshen up with just over a month left to go in the home and away season. So it swings both ways, but I can also understand the frustrations of, there's nothing happening on Saturday afternoon, so what do we do?
Alinda Ferny Creek, 16-10-106, Hillsville 4-6-30. We expected this. Do we expect the margin?
Yeah, Linda have been good in recent weeks. They're getting their players back. I think people probably forget, and myself included at times, that they finished second on the ladder last year in the Yarra Rangers, and where people were thinking they were a red-hot chance. They went out straight sets, but injuries have cruelled them at the start of this year and the back end of last year, getting their players back. They've tweaked a few things in the back line. They're starting to figure it out. Beating teams they should beat now. The big test will come in the next few weeks for them, but yeah.
Narry Warren won easily by 139 points. Michael Collins, one of the veterans, one of the greats of the Narry Warren Football Club, multiple best and fairest winner, multiple premiership player. He kicked 8. They had 10 goal kickers. They were beaten narrowly by Beaconsfield a couple of weeks ago before the bye. They'd be pretty happy that they found a way to have a big win. But you look at that and think, is it the result they need with the finals not that far away? And what's happened to Upway?
Upway again, injuries. Their reserves going quite well. Their 18s should make the finals, so
that's okay.
They're well set for the future. I think injuries to key players has probably hurt them, and you would have seen them when probably their depth, ability to run and stuff like that. No, Warren, I don't think you can ever complain with a 139-point win. It's not like they scraped over the line. They're playing who they've got in front of them. They've still got Berwick in the last round before finals, and Cranbourne to come, as well as Wandon in a couple of weeks. And Woori-Alec, I think, as well. So they've still got plenty of games where they're going to be tested. There's only really 2 teams that are well off the boil, and Hillsville are improving whilst Upway slide. So the rest of the competition, after the early hiccup, starting to really even out.
And Wandon, they got over the line against Beaconsfield. They trailed by 7 points at three-quarter time, and they found a way in the end to get over the line. Beaconsfield will be disappointed with this because it was a golden opportunity for them to further cement their spot inside the top 3. And Matt, as we know in footy, the close games are the ones that can kill you. I mean, they can also set you up, but they can also kill you.
And especially after, they won 6 in a row coming into the game. So it would have been a disappointing result for them. And as you say, but to lose a close one like that against a fellow side that's there or thereabouts, but disappointing for them, but credit to Wandon.
Yeah, Wandon have got a pretty good run home in terms of location. They don't leave the valley. Again, using those terms, but they've got 2 home games against Cranbourne and Narry, followed by 3 games against Hillsville, Upway, Hillsville and Alinda Ferny Creek. So they're in familiar territory. They're also getting players back. John Ladner, who starred against Berwick in round 1, is going to be back on the field this weekend. Don't know whether it'll be reserves or seniors. Their ruckman, Michael Folks, will be back. Paddy Hodgett kicked 5 goals. He kicked 4 and a quarter, and by all reports, towed up Jake Bowd from Beaconsfield, which is no mean feat. And he's the 3rd player in that forward line. So Wandon, they've got the danger. They're dangerous to everyone else. They've got all the stars out there. They've just got to, if they can get to finals, they'll be a scary proposition.
And to kick 8 goals in the final quarter too, that's
Yeah.
That's pretty damaging.
Yeah, I think it was 8 goals to 4 or something like that. So the online stuff might be a little bit faulty, but yeah, 8 goals to 4. It's a high-scoring ground, Wandon, for those who have been there. But yeah, the wind was apparently dying down in the last quarter, and I've watched some of the goals. Some of the goals are pretty magical. Justin Van Unen gets ones to literally bounce on it and then bounce over the man on the line. Daniel Gorringe hooks ones over his shoulder from outside the arc. They might call it 50. He's probably kicked it 35 metres, yeah. But nonetheless, they're pretty good goals. And then Wandon's crowd, you know, whilst it can be intimidating, if they're up and about and Wanderoo coming home strong, it's a hard thing to fight against. And Nick Adams said to me, there's genuine home ground advantage now, which is a good thing. We talk about there's none of that in the league footy, but we've got it here.
Is the issue for Wandon going to be, Matt, on the bigger grounds in the finals? As you said, they don't leave the valley. Is that a good thing or bad thing? I mean, it probably can get them in the finals ahead of Cranbourne, you'd think. I think, Beaky,
I think it's a good thing.
With a big percentage, but are they going to be able to cope with the big grounds which they haven't so far?
I think it's a good thing because if they get there, then all of a sudden it's finals, anything can happen. If want to get to there and then they're playing on a slightly bigger ground, but by then they'll have their players back. They should have learnt. They've now played, you know, on each of them, and they've gradually got better and better each time. Even in that 3-week period where they were getting belted, they actually got closer and closer to their opposition. Even so, actually, their best performance was against Narre Warren in those 3. They'll get players back. They'll learn, you know, and they're proud people. There's a lot of those players that are proud, and when Daniel Gorringe wants to play, he can tear the whole comp apart. So, I think the other 5 teams would probably or top 4 teams would probably prefer Cranbourne or Linda Ferny Creek to make it. I don't think they want Wandon to make it.
When you say he wants to play, do you think he picks and chooses?
No, I mean I don't know about Daniel. He's quite outspoken on mental health and stuff like that, which is good on social media.
Well, you need to be. I mean, I've got mental health issues and I've been very strong on it too. You've got to be. I mean, not enough people are willing to talk about it, and too many people in the mainstream media think they know about it and they know nothing about it. No, they don't.
And Daniel's obviously, you know, he probably, I don't know whether he's got his own issues himself, but he obviously copped it. He was a top 10 draft pick, played a few games for Carlton and Gold Coast. You know, and people get into it for being a failure. I know when I was a kid, playing footy for me local under-18s team seemed like a long way away, let alone the AFL. So he's played 10 more games than me, or however many games he's played. But he's shown on occasion this year that he has taken games apart, but he has faded. In other games, if they can, you know, get him into form, heading into finals, he could take this thing apart.
Now let's look at the team of the week. Matt Cox, Matt Footy put this team together. Adams from Hillsville in the back pocket. Batten from Wurriyallock at full back. Morris from Cranbourne in the other back pocket. Pretty solid back line. Wilson from Linda Ferny Creek on the half back line. We know what sort of player Jake Richardson is and what he brings to the table at centre half back from Narre Warren. His father Jeff played a lot of Shield cricket for Victoria in the 1980s. His only century was on the MCG, was a double 100 against Queensland. He'll tell you that every time you speak to Jeffrey. Bromley from Beaconsfield on the other half-back flank. Hello, Jeffrey, by the way. Centre line, Cody of Narre Warren, Brazisi of Wandon, very good player. Foot of Narre Warren, the half-forward line. We mentioned Michael Collins, 8 goals. He just keeps on keeping on. He's been playing forever. He'll probably keep playing forever. Hodgett from Wandon at centre half forward and Burr from Cranbourne on the other half-forward flank. The forward line, Tommy Toner. Of course, Coach has had a conversation with him on Coach's Conversations as part of the Outer East website for GameFace. The forward pocket for Tommy Toner. Daniel Gorringe from Wandon at full forward. Van Unen from Wandon in the forward pocket. Excellent forward line. Zach Monkhurst, Wurriyallock in the ruck. Smith from Wurriyallock, the ruck rover. Joe Duggan is the rover from Hillsville. And the interchange is Johnston, Wandon, Goff, Linda Ferny Creek, Maruzic, who spent some time at West Perth and played in the Premiership. He is with Cranbourne. Big, strong body there. And Davies from Narre Warren. When you put that team together, Matt, and I've also put the teams together as well, how long does it take you? And what do you generally go on if you haven't seen all the matches?
Look, I'll be honest. I think Benny Monkhurst pointed it out to you at a Wurriyallock live show. It is mainly going off the best players, but also from stuff I've heard. You know, I've got a couple of eyes out there, obviously, at the workplace. We've all got. I'm at a game, obviously, and this week was Division 1, so if you're watching the Division 1 show, there'll probably be a bit more in-depth analysis on who was in the team of the week. You hear things from people, you know the roles people play. I know Ryan Bromley kicked 3 for Beaconsfield, but I've put him on a half-back flank because that's where he said he played when we did the Interleague live show. And at Wandon, you can play anywhere and be a goal-kicking opportunity, so there's plenty for them. Zach Monkhurst, I might just pencil in for the ruck.
I think so. He seems to be there every week, doesn't he?
He's an absolute star. He's a bit of a different build to his old man. But he's a bit more streamlined, Matty. He came in the box after one game for an interview and shirtless, and I I don't swing that way, but I was thinking about it, Dan. He was in pretty good nick. But no, you hear things.
Your girlfriend would be disappointed if you were to announce on GameFace that you did swing the other way. That'd be all over Red Rover, wouldn't it?
I'm pretty confident, Dan, that she's not tuning in. She's not the biggest fan of footy, let alone outer east footy. No, so I think, look, it's just knowing, it's talking to people that you know of. But yes, if you're ever in doubt, who got in the best is usually a good indicator of who played well.
Who was unlucky then this week?
Who was unlucky?
What were the names that were in consideration?
Well, the problem is you look at someone like Beaconsfield and their best players, and a lot of the players, when they're vying for different positions, I think the two Johnstons, I thought that for a second there was a misprint in the best when they were both in the best, but there's two of them there.
Johnson and a Johnston, isn't
but they're spelt the same way. Well, it was on Sporting Pulse. When I've done team sheets, I've spelt them differently just to separate them. But for example, knowing their positions, and then you've got Narry Warren, so like you win by 140 points. It's hard not to put all of them in there. For example, Davies from Narry Warren, he was on the bench, kicked 5, Tony kicked 3, but Toner's a forward pocket, so you try to go like for like. It's not like Supercoach where you just chuck all the best players in.
With the midfielders, you can pick 4 midfielders and put them on the bench if you've got enough height.
You can.
Exactly right.
But look, I'd like to think next year the interleague squad will just be picked off what I think, but I don't know. I don't see that happening.
Now, looking at the ladder, Berwick, who haven't played for 3 weeks, when they play next week, still a game clear of Narry Warren at the top of the table. Woori looking strong at the right end of the year on 34 points, 2 points ahead of Beaconsfield. So big battle there to see who'll get the double chance, probably between Woori and Beaconsfield. Cranbourne is stuttering on 26, half a game ahead of Wandon, but their percentage is much better. And this is the issue with Wandon. Their percentage is not great. They've got to belt some teams, Matt, on the way home. As Matt said, they've got all these games in the Valley. They don't leave the Valley now. They've got an opportunity, particularly against some of the lower sides, to try and get that percentage up. And obviously, it won't matter as much now that Cranbourne are on 26, but they wouldn't want to go into the finals with a substandard percentage, I would have thought.
No, and you want to build up form as well.
You do.
You're playing on grounds that are familiar, so you should be able to kick a very good score.
And Wandon prefer to kick a high score than keep teams to low scores.
Yeah, no doubt. Alinda on 20 points, having a good end of the season with Upwey, Tacoma and Hillsville holding up the bottom of the ladder. Hillsville on the bottom. This week, boys, big game. Earlier in the year, Beaconsfield probably, Matt, should have beaten Berwick. There was a mark that wasn't given to one of their defenders.
Yeah, Jake Bowd.
And of course, Tim Gunn was able to snap that goal. You called it magnificently, and they got over the line. But I think that was the start of Beaconsfield's very good run. Berwick are at home. You expect them to win, even though they haven't played footy for a while?
Yeah, Berwick are a professional outfit, don't have the same injury list as Cranbourne do, and Reece Nisbet is a good operator. Beaconsfield will be interesting. They can go one or two ways here. There was a bit of noise, and they were pumping themselves up, and rightly so. I've called them a smoky on here before. They go one or two ways. They're either going to really fire up and get and pull off an upset, or it could really hurt them, that loss, especially the way it happened in the last quarter. There was a fair bit of going on in the crowd, and it was quite emotional. I'm going to go Berwick. You can't, at the moment, they haven't lost since round 1, so you can't go past them.
Lee McCullen's a very good coach, and
he is.
He understands the game. He's a great student of the game. You would think, Matt, he'd be able to get his team up. They've been so good for so long. They beat Narry Warren 2 weeks ago. There'd be a lot of self-belief, and they should have beaten Berwick early in the year. So even though it's at Berwick and they're hard to beat there, you'd have to say that this is a big opportunity for them to prove they are a very good side.
It is, but I agree with Matt 1 or Matt 2, whichever way we're going to go.
M1, M2.
They're freeways and they're both stuffed. I think, look, you have to go with Berwick based on where they sit on top of the ladder. But I don't know, there's something in me that's leaning the way of Beaconsfield, just based on the fact that they lost a game that they probably would have penciled in given the form that they were in. But yeah, it's a real tough one.
Dan mentions Lee McCullen. He's a very analytical and spends a lot of time cutting up footage and really working on the opposition. And it worked against Narry Warren, who, albeit were a couple of players short that day. It doesn't work as well against a team like Wandon, who aren't as organised in the way they move the ball. If you watch a bit of footage,
a bit chaotic Wandon.
Well, of course, because you don't have to. You don't have to organise it when you've got Van Unen, Gorringe, Hodgett now, and when they've got folks back down there. You don't have to get it in there. One of them will mark it, or Van Unen in some cases just pull something out of the old proverbial. So I think it's harder for a coach like McQuillan to sort of like, well, how do we stop it? Because if Wandon, it's like in cricket, if the bowler doesn't know where the ball's going, how does the batter know? So it's the same with, if Wandon aren't so clear and methodical in the way they move the ball, how is Beaconsfield going to set up? So Berwick, on the other hand, probably have a much more streamlined plan. McQuillan might be able to break that down easier, but as Matt said, and as I said, until they lose, they haven't lost since April. Until they lose, you can't tip against them.
So what do Beaconsfield need to do then? What do they need to do apart from just shut the structure down?
I think the closer, if it's close, Berwick will win. Berwick have got the experience. That's what happened last time. Beaconsfield.
It was low scoring game.
Beaconsfield, early. Berwick got a couple of early goals, figured out to drop deeper in their zone so that Beaconsfield could run it to half back, but then was stuck. They couldn't overlap. And then once that happened, the game, Riley Verby had a really good game. Mentioned him before. But Beaconsfield probably dominated more possession, but Berwick were more efficient with it. And then they got in front, and then Ash Smith, James Magna, Tuck wasn't playing, but went on the ball, got it out of the middle. Smith got the clearance that landed in Gunn's lap. So experienced players. So I think Beaconsfield need to get out in front early and hold on.
Mini elimination final. You think this is at Wandon, which will probably favour Wandon. They take on Cranbourne. Just massive game for Cranbourne. They've got to find a way to win, but Wandon pretty good at home, aren't they?
Yeah, and Cranbourne again. It might just come down to they've got to play on emotion now. You can't be methodical. Run and carry will work, but it won't work. Well, it'll work, but it's not that required at Wandon. You can spot up targets and 2 kicks in your home, sometimes 1. Wandon are now flying, and like I said, when a side like Wandon gets up and about, they can be hard to stop momentum-wise. I think this time last year, 12 games in, they were 4th, equal 3rd with Upwey and Hillsville, and they stormed home. I think they only lost 1 or 2 more games for the year. I think they lost 1 more game. Stormed home, won the grand final with ease, won the second semi-final with ease. They're on the home deck. Cranbourne are sliding the other way. I can't go past Wandon at the moment. They're getting their players back. I think they're going to make the finals, and I think they're going to be dangerous.
What do you think, Colsey?
Well, you were telling me last week that the sides that aren't from the Valley don't like playing on the smaller grounds. They struggle to find the space.
You're learning.
The teams from the Sefnal struggle a bit on the smaller grounds. They're learning, but they're not there yet either.
So I'm going to go the way of Wandon.
Yeah, me too. I think Wandon will win this. Warri Yallock hosting the improving Alinda. This could be a really, really good game, couldn't it, Matt?
Yeah, it's massive for Alinda because they're 6 points behind Cranbourne, but they do play Cranbourne and Wandon.
Yeah.
It all could come down to that last game of the year, Wandon and Alinda.
Yes.
Which the earlier edition was a kick after the siren. David Norder couldn't make the distance, which is surprising at Wandon because you can almost make the distance from anywhere. But if he kicked that, we could be talking about Alinda jumping in, but that's another story. But Warri Yallock, we spoke about them earlier, how they just get it done, and they're at home and they'll get it done. Zach Monkhurst will probably kick 3, have 40 hitouts. Ben Monkhurst will kick 2 goals 6 because he can't find the big sticks at the moment, but he's dominating, and one of the small fellas will pop up. Hayden Smith will probably get best on.
Michael Batten will dominate defence.
Yeah, Risley, Allen and Batten will just take marks, and something will happen. It'll be closer than the earlier one, but you can't go past the Tigers.
Yeah, Tigers for me.
I'm going to go the other way.
There you go.
I'll go for the upset.
Pantomime villain.
Because no one else has. But I just look at the scoring shots. I know it was obviously a different game, different opposition for Alinda, but they looked a little more attacking last
And they have
weekend.
grown, and they've built from the back. Brendan Donovan said they switched up their back to sort of counteract the new style of footy, and now they're starting to grow.
As a coach, Brendan Donovan.
He's a thinker. He's a thinker.
Yeah, very much like Lee McQuillan. Narry Warren and Hillsville, well, 2 weeks in a row, they're going to get a percentage boost in Narry Warren.
Not that they need it.
Not that they need it. I mean, obviously a win's a win, and Matthew Shinnells will take it and then concentrate on the big games coming up. But to me, Coxie, I worry about teams getting close to the end of the season, the top teams taking on some of the bottom teams. I know you can only play who you come up against, and they're just expected to get the job done and win by a big margin, but I wouldn't have thought it was great prep for the finals.
Are you throwing up potentially a rotating bottom 3 for, what is it in the AFL that they're
contemplating?
Well, there aren't enough teams, that's the issue, there aren't enough teams. I mean, I think that your premier competition, that's just my view, in a league like the Outer East, needs to not have buys. They can't have buys. That's my personal opinion.
I'm hoping that, okay, it's obviously 2nd against 9th, but I'm hoping that Hillsville can show something in the next few weeks. It looks like they'll get relegated. So I'm hoping that they can start to show something heading into next year, just to build that confidence and momentum up. But you can't look past Narry Warren.
No, absolutely.
That's going to be scary to think what the scoreline's.
Yeah, Nari will win. Hills will have been improving, but I agree with you, they'll want to keep doing that. Ash Hamer played his 200th recently. They've got Casey Adams playing his 250th and Daniel Plaza playing his 300th soon. So they're going to have some emotional cause to play better. But speaking about Nari, speaking about the 2 easy games they've got now, they'd rather them now than after that they've got Wandon fighting for finals at Wandon. They've got Cranbourne who will be fighting for finals at Cranbourne. They've got the bye, they've got Berwick in the last round and they've got Woori Alec before that. So I think they're going to be all right with their run home in terms of competitiveness.
Absolutely, this is an opportunity to, I suppose, get whatever chinks are in the armour out of the system before that. You make a very good point there. Just before we go, I want to just change from sports. You love your cricket. We haven't had a chance to talk to you. Do you like the way the World Cup ended, or do you think if there's going to be a super over, a bit like the penalty shootout in soccer, they just keep playing till they get a definitive result?
Only because New Zealand lost, I'd say yes. Shattered for New Zealand. I stayed up the whole time.
Yeah,
but you've got to admire them the way they handle it. Incredible maturity and the way that they shrugged and they could have easily come out and pointed at all the umpiring decisions and that, but they took it on the chin. And New Zealand are what? They're going to be the world champions of rugby. They're the world champions of netball, and they were a whisker. And they would, well, technically, they probably were world champions of cricket. So there you go.
They did a great job. England celebrating too long, too hard, and I wonder how many of them will get OAMs. Anyway, thank you, boys. Thanks, Coxie. Thanks, Matt. That's it for this week's Outer East Premier Division footy show from Studio B, GameFace Central in Dandenong.
Have we worked out why we're in Studio B yet?
Yeah.
Studio's A too small.
I don't know where Studio A is. Still looking for it. We'll see you next week. Get your GameFace on.